Hi friends, welcome back to my channel Civil Stuff by Wahid. So today I'm going to discuss about the design requirements for columns as per IS 456-2000. In that, generally when we discuss about the columns, you will be having two different types of reinforcement. One is longitudinal reinforcement, which is placed vertically. Next one more is what? We call it as a transverse reinforcement, which is placed horizontally. Suppose for example a column is there, okay, in that column you will be placing reinforcement like this. This reinforcement is nothing but called as what? Longitudinal reinforcement. Whereas you will be providing reinforcement in this way, that is transverse reinforcement. So as per IS 456-2000, what are the requirements that should be maintained while designing a columns? Means there will be some limitations should be followed while designing the columns that we see now in this video, right? Which is very important for your competitive exams like ESET and upcoming TSPAC, AEAW notifications. Okay, now coming to the longitudinal reinforcement, what the IS 456-2000 suggests. Here the cross-sectional area of the reinforcement, longitudinal reinforcement, shall not be less than 0.8 times of gross cross-sectional area and should not be more than 6% of gross cross-sectional area. Now column size will be there. Okay, say for example 300 mm by 200 mm is the column, right? Now what is the gross cross-sectional area? 3 to the 6, right? So 60,000 mm square is the cross-sectional area, gross cross-sectional area. Now whatever the reinforcement you are providing, longitudinal reinforcement, that overall value when you design for a given load, that area of reinforcement, especially longitudinal reinforcement, should be within these two values. Means after getting the amount of steel, AST, longitudinal reinforcement required from the formula, you can check that whether it is within the limits or not. So this is limit, means it should not be less than 0.8% of gross cross-sectional area and should not be more than 6% of the gross cross-sectional area. This is the first criteria required as per the longitudinal reinforcement concern. Next, suppose the column size may be rectangular, square, circular, like that, right? So minimum number of longitudinal reinforcement as per code suggests is, for rectangular it is 4 numbers and for circular it is 6 numbers, and maximum it depends upon the area required. Now this is the, for rectangle it is 4 numbers and for circular it is 6 numbers. Coming to the diameter, what is the minimum diameter of the longitudinal bars? The code is suggesting is 12 mm. 12 mm means it should not be less than 12 mm. It should be start from 12 mm, and depending upon the requirement you can use all the bars of same size or all the bars of different size. It depends upon the condition. Next, spacing of longitudinal bars measured along the periphery of the column. Now what is this periphery of the column means? Suppose in a column, if I am providing reinforcement like this along the periphery, these should not exceed 300 mm. If it is exceeding 300 mm, what you should do is you have to place 2 more longitudinal bars, and after providing you should check the area, because it should be within the limits. These are the some of the criteria to be followed when you are talking about the longitudinal reinforcement, especially in the columns. Now coming to the transverse reinforcement, I have discussed you what is transverse reinforcement. This is nothing but a transverse reinforcement, right? So it is provided to support the longitudinal bars against the buckling. So because of diameter being say 12 mm and length being say 9 feet or 10 feet, say 3 meters. So this much diameter which cannot have its proper vertical orientation, and in order to avoid buckling, lateral buckling of these longitudinal reinforcement bars, you are supposed to provide the lateral ties. Now it can be provided in the form of a circular for a circular columns and polygonal for your rectangular or square columns, right? Now it is, suppose if I am providing lateral ties. Now what here we talk about means what is the diameter and what is the spacing to be provided, and what is the diameter of this transverse reinforcement is to be maintained. That we will see now. Now see here, the dia of lateral ties should not be less than 1/4 of dia of largest longitudinal bar, and in no case less than 6 mm. Means, for example, 6 mm is the code is providing, minimum is 6 mm. Suppose if I am using here longitudinal bars of different sizes, say 12 mm I am using, 2 numbers of 16 mm I am using, or 2 numbers of 20 mm I am using, right? So which is the largest bar, largest longitudinal bar? 20. So 20 into 1/4, so 5 mm. I got 5 mm. But what code is suggesting? Minimum is 6 mm. Suppose if you are getting less than 6 mm, you have to provide 6 mm, and if you are getting more than 6 mm, you have to provide that value. Suppose for example I am using 16 mm bars and 32 mm bars. So 1/4 of 32. 4 1s are 4 8s. That means the diameter of the bar you can maintain is 8 mm. As per code, it is minimum is 6 mm. Right. Next, when you go for the spacing, pitch is nothing but spacing, vertical spacing between the two lateral ties is nothing but a pitch, right? Now this pitch, the pitch of ties shall not be more than least of the following. Least of the following. Now one is least lateral dimension of the column, 16 times the dia of smallest longitudinal bar, and 300 mm. Now here if I take this column as an example, now these are the lateral dimensions, right? Now 300, 200, which is the least? This is the least lateral dimension. So 200 is the least lateral dimension. And suppose next 16 times the dia of smallest longitudinal bars. If you are using only one bar, you can directly use 16 into 12. And if I am using 16, 12, 16, two different bars as a longitudinal bars, I can use minimum value, multiply with 16. Okay. Okay, next one is 300 mm. From this, the lateral tie, the pitch of ties shall not be more than least of the following. Means whatever the least you get, you have to provide that one only, not more than that one. That is the case. And coming to other way, you can provide the helical reinforcement in the form of transverse reinforcement provided in the form of a helical reinforcement, right? Now, whatever the dia we have mentioned in the lateral ties, that will be same here. Means this is the dia of lateral ties or helical reinforcement should not be less than 1/4 of dia of largest longitudinal bar. Same will be there as for a helical reinforcement. Next, coming to the pitch. Here pitch should be decided based upon minimum and maximum. See here, the pitch of helical reinforcement shall not be more than least of the following. Now what is this least? 75 mm, 1/6 of core dia of column. Now what is this core dia? We are say providing, this is our dia of the column. I am providing reinforcement like this. Now this one is nothing but a core dia. What is this? Core dia. So say for example 1/6 of core dia means say I am using 300 mm. 300 by 6. How much it is? 300 by 6. 50 mm. Right? Means the pitch of the helical reinforcement shall not be more than least of the following. Means it should not be more than 50 mm for the example I have taken. Next, it should satisfy the another criteria, that is the pitch of helical reinforcement shall not be less than greatest of the following. What is greatest? 25 mm and 3 times the dia of helical bar. Suppose if I got a helical bar dia 6 mm, 3 6 is 18. Should not be less than greatest of the following. So if I am using 6 mm bar, 3 into 6 is 18. So which is the greatest? 25 will be the greatest. Means whatever the pitch you are providing for the helical reinforcement, it should be more than 25 and less than 50. Means it should not be less than the greatest of the following. Means here for my example 25 is the greatest. So it should be more than 25 and it should be less than 50, right? And finally, one more design aspect is cover. Now what is this cover? Whatever the reinforcement, longitudinal bar reinforcement we are providing, you will be maintaining some cover that is called as a nominal cover. Okay, in no case the longitudinal reinforcing bars in a column, nominal cover should not be less than 40 mm, should not be less than 40 mm or less than dia of such bar. That is one condition. Okay, means minimum code suggests is 40 mm. For which type of size of B columns? Means the columns whose size is greater than 200 mm. Any size is greater than 200 mm. Above 200 mm, you should provide a minimum cover of 40 mm. And for columns of minimum dimensions of 200 or less than 200, and condition is with 12 mm dia bars. With 12 mm dia bars, the nominal cover of 25 mm may be used. Here it is 25 mm, here it is 40 mm. So these are the some of the design requirements you should follow while designing a columns. Okay, thank you for watching my video. Please do subscribe for more videos.